Super Mario Bros. Wonder has only been out for a little while, and yet I've already made a custom level for it. I've gotten a lot of requests from people asking me to explain how I did that, so without further ado, here's how I made my very first custom Super Mario Bros. Wonder level. Let's start by digging into the game's files. The levels for this game are stored in the Bank Map Unit folder. Every level in the game consists of a few files in here. There's the main file, which contains all of the terrain, platforms, and enemies for the main area of the level. And then there's the sub-files, which contain the same stuff for each sub-area, of which there can be several. Every level also has a course file, which controls the links between different areas. So for example, it can have a list of which pipe in one area leads to a pipe in another area. We can open up these files using Switch Toolbox and then export them as a YAML, which is basically just a fancy text file. And in that file, we get a list of everything in the level, so every enemy, every platform, every decorative element, all the terrain, including semi-solids, even things like the talking flowers. They're all just in a gigantic list here. This allows us to manually change the parameters of elements in a level. For example, this list of translations corresponds to the object's X, Y, and Z placement, which we could change if we wanted to. So in this file, we can delete existing objects by just getting rid of their little piece of text, and we can even import brand new assets by just copying them over from a different level. Now, it should be noted that I'm massively oversimplifying all of this stuff. I'm not going to talk about hashes, or links, or simultaneous groups, or any of that kind of stuff, because we'd be here for literal hours. Anyways, after I 100%ed Super Mario Bros. Wonder last week, I knew I wanted to make at least one custom level for the game as soon as possible, regardless of the fact that there actually aren't any level editors yet. Easily my favorite world theme in the game was that of World 2. I'm a sucker for pink clouds after all, but in order to spice things up a bit, I decided to try and combine the World 2 background with the background of the nighttime level in World 4. So I first copied over all of the objects that make up the nighttime World 4 background into an empty level, because yes, by the way, even background models are just objects that are placed into the big text file. Then I removed the desert mountains from the background and replaced them with the snowy World 2 mountains. And then by editing the area param file, I also managed to change the level's lighting to that of World 2. So now I had a cool background, but what about the level itself? If you hadn't noticed already, my new channel art is actually based on the owl enemies that only appear in a single level in the original game, so I really wanted to use them in my own level. Another underused bird enemy that I decided to use was these bluebirds. I felt like they fit the level's theming and also discovered how they worked pretty well with these flip blocks. I specifically chose these mechanics because I thought they were pretty simple to work with, which would make the level creation process less tedious. Okay, so that's the level's mechanics. Now, how did I get started? Did I just start typing random elements into my level and hope they would work? No, actually. I decided I'd sketch my level out ahead of time so that all I'd have to do in the text editor is copy over what I'd already designed. For this task, I decided to use the Miyamoto level editor, which is actually made for creating custom New Super Mario Bros. U levels. I made a placeholder tileset that included the elements I wanted to use in the level, and off I went, designing a Wonder level in a New Super Mario Bros. U level editor. Once I'd made the start of the level, it was time to copy everything over to Super Mario Bros. Wonder, which proved to be even more tedious and frustrating than I'd expected. Not only did I have to deal with placing every enemy and object in the right position using only their coordinates, I also had to plot out the terrain by hand, which involved, you guessed it, even more coordinates. But after a long process of what basically came down to programming, something which I'm not even all that good at, I'd finally managed to make the start of the level. So I went back to designing the level in the Miyamoto level editor. In fact, let me just re-emphasize once again that this is not a Wonder level editor. I could just as well be sketching this stuff out on paper. All the stuff I'm making in here is just a visual aid. One of the trickier things for me to figure out was how these floating wonder flower things worked, but after some finagling, I managed to get this one here to spawn the second big purple coin. I suppose I should also talk about the level's design a bit. It's not meant to be anything amazing. Like I said, the mechanics are purposefully simple. Most of my recent New Super Luigi U levels have much better design. Anyways, once I'd gotten up to the checkpoint flag, it was once again time to turn my attention to the text editor and copy everything over manually. This time around, another tricky thing I had to deal with was the fact that the projectiles of my bluebirds suddenly weren't going straight through the flip blocks anymore, but were getting stuck. It turned out that the reason for this was that they needed to be at least 4 tiles away from the flip blocks. I have no idea why this is how it works. I guess it's some kind of momentum thing. At least the checkpoint object in Wonder is extremely simple, so after I placed that in, it was time to continue working on the level in Miyamoto. In terms of level design, I always like to sort of reintroduce the level's mechanics after a checkpoint in case the player died and respawned there, so they don't get thrown off. It also turned out that having these owl enemies have a trail of coins is extremely tedious to set up. So this owl in the middle here, it was the only one who ended up with a coin trail in the entire level. This semi-solid setup here had to be changed in the end because I couldn't have one bird go in front of the semi-solid while the other bird on top went behind it. And this here is a type of pipe entrance I do a lot. I thought it was fun to use the flip blocks like this, though it took a while to figure out how to get the pipes to be placed properly and connected to a sub-area. Speaking of which, after I had once again ported everything over to Wonder, I also went ahead and made a test version of the sub-area. I decided to use the top-down Wonder effect, since I thought it would be pretty simple to use. However, as it turns out, the way Nintendo programmed this effect was actually extremely stupid, because they actually manually spawn in invisible walls all around the background tiles. This meant that I would also have to manually figure out the position for dozens of invisible walls that I'd have to place down and then link to the Wonder Flower. So maybe it wasn't that simple of an effect after all. Anyways, before I did any of that, I had to get started on the bonus room, so it was time to head back to the Miyamoto level one last time and finish the level. Remember that this section involves walking on background tiles, so that's why its design might look a bit strange at the moment. I had some problems with this second bird here not spawning in correctly, so in the final version of this level there's only a single bird here. As for the end of the main part of the level, I just decided to keep reinforcing the whole blue bird flip block gimmick by forcing the player to sort of wait around on the blocks for a while. In this first section here, I did that by putting one of these small wonder flowers up here that would spawn some coins, and later on in the final section, I put one of those pull tabs on the wall that would allow you to get the third big purple coin. The gold ball challenge also ended up being pretty simple, just another blue bird and flip block thing, but by the time I got to this point, I was pretty sick of working on this level, so I just wanted it to be over. Speaking of which, it took a long time for me to put all of that stuff back into Wonder properly, but once I did, the level was done. So let's go check out the finished result in-game. And here we are, actually playing the level in-game. So I should note that this here is actually not a free power-up you just get at the start of the level. That only spawns a mushroom if you're a small player. So if I had a fire flower or something, that would just spawn a coin. It's also funny how here this setup with those coins that spawn with the Bluebird platform there is actually exactly how the original Bluebird level in the original game also starts. But whatever, I didn't really think about that. I hadn't replayed the level before I made this level. And yeah, here this Bluebird can actually hit that block like you can see there. Which is kind of a challenge, but it also happens so it takes such a long time for that to happen that I don't think most people would even encounter that at this point in the level, which is fine, I suppose. I also hit some coins up here, by the way, which I don't think I really talked about before, but yeah, those are there because why not? Just gotta have some more secrets. And if you hit this flower here, like I've showcased, you can actually get the second purple coin, which I suppose that's very close to the first purple coin, but I think Wonder already does a lot of that in the original game as well, where a lot of purple coins are kind of close together. And here's more of a highlighted version of that mechanic where the bluebirds will hit the flip blocks, so we have to kind of wait around, and here we can go now quickly before the bluebird hits the block once again. And yeah, there isn't that much you can do with these owl enemies, to be honest, so the full extent of what I do with them really is just to spam more of them. And I suppose you could also say that's kind of what I do with the bluebirds here as well, where they're just kind of placed in this sort of awkward way for you to navigate around, but whatever. It's actually kind of weird how I have those blocks there with just a coin in them. They're kind of just pointless, but I suppose that's alright. Sometimes blocks are just there for decoration or whatever. So here's the Wonder effect. Oh my god, crazy. How did you get a Wonder effect into the game? I thought those were hard-coded or something. No, they're not. They're just like a fancy P-switch, basically. It was a pain to figure out all of the invisible walls around the terrain here that I had to place. But apart from that, this was actually not that difficult of a setup for me to do, really. So yeah, I don't know why people are freaking out about it so much that they think Wonder effects are hard-coded or something. It has been pointed out to me that that block there probably shouldn't be a Yoshi block because Yoshi can't even collect power-ups, so it's weird that the game would reveal the power-up to Yoshi specifically, and that's true. I didn't really think that one through, but whatever. This here is another coin block that turns into a mushroom block if you're small. So just another way of making sure that players don't get stuck at the end of the level here, because it gets quite enemy spammy, to be honest, but it's fine. There's only so much you can do with these mechanics, to be honest. That third purple coin there is also quite tricky to get. And yeah, this little goal pole challenge here is just the same thing we have throughout the rest of the level, but with that, the level is done. We've played through the whole thing. And I really hope this was the first and also the last time I ever have to make a level using this method, because I'm hoping some kind of level editor releases sooner than later. And in case you're interested in the development of the several level editors that are actually in development right now, I would highly recommend joining the Wonderland Discord server, which is linked in the description. Another thing you can do to keep up with Wonder modding is of course to subscribe to my channel. But anyways guys, that's it for this video. If you liked the video, make sure to leave a like on the video and blah 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 YouTuber stuff. Thanks for watching and bye bye.